Do not be alarmed, or maybe go ahead and be alarmed. Rashee Rice misses practice. That is the story of the day on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every single day. For you Chiefs fans, that means us. Me and Chris been doing this 10 years plus. In total, 9 years on this particular show. Make sure that you like and sub. We appreciate it very much. I'm getting all choked up. That's the way that it goes sometimes. Thank you for being here. We are on this network for a reason, because we're free for you every day on every platform, whether it's YouTube, where you can like and sub right now, the audio platforms. You can even get newsletters from this particular network that will include some Chiefs information. We are really excited about it. We have a ton to go over today. Little bit of alarm. I'm only half kidding about the panic thing here. Rashee Rice did come up injured. We're going to run it all down. Now, if you don't know Chris, he's running KC Chiefs Corner. You can find his information there, where he writes his stories looking at quarterbacks and stats and the cap, etc. You can find me and the rest of my work on NFL33.com and RGRfootball.com. We'd appreciate if you guys would check those out. Today, there are a couple of surprises going on, not just in camp, but what's going to come in this ball game. That's coming up later in the show. Before we get there, we got to talk about Travis Kelce. Not just that he finally made a media appearance for the first time in training camp, but that he's leaner, that he's meaner, and he's not giving in to the pressure from the media to define when his career is going to end. What else did he have to say? That's coming up here in a bit. But we start with the breaking news. Rashee Rice did not practice today, particularly, and was kind of a mystery until post-game pressers, due to a groin injury. And I think that this is probably not going to affect as much of his season as people who are panicking are. But I'm concerned about it, because this is my point of view. Knowing that he's going to miss a few games for suspension, we don't know when or where, but we're hoping it's early in the year, right? I want him to get as much work in training camp as possible, to be in shape, to have his hands right, to have all the install in his head fresh and ready to roll. I think this puts a dent in his progression towards, what if he has to sit out the first 5 or 6 games? I think these snaps are utterly important for him right now.
I don't disagree with that. I do think that it's obviously a setback for the Chiefs. It's obviously a setback for him. He was looking fantastic. This has nothing to do with his knee injury. It is the groin, so completely unrelated to his injury. So want to make that clear. Has nothing to do with that. But the whole thing that really comes to my mind is, while this isn't a good situation for the Chiefs, this isn't a great situation for Rashee Rice, in some ways, it may be a good situation for Patrick Mahomes and the other wide receivers. Because the reality is, we were already talking yesterday. Didn't we talk about this with Matt, about how they need to figure out the wide receiver position? And one of the things about Hollywood not playing in this game was going to be the fact that more wide receivers are going to get more looks. Guess what? Rashee Rice isn't going to play on Saturday's game. I would just about guarantee there's no way he plays. If he misses practice on Wednesday, there's almost no way that they're playing him on Saturday. So to me, while I don't like the fact that he missed practice, I don't like the fact that he's not eligible, or he's not able to go out there and do what he needs to do to get ready for the season. I agree with you. That's a little bit of an issue. Of all the wide receivers in training camp for the Chiefs, he is the one that I am the least worried about, knowing the offense and having chemistry and having a connection with Patrick Mahomes, because he's been here for a couple of years. Mahomes and him are on the same page. They know what's going on. He can still be in the playbook. He can still get all that going. This does give the other wide receivers a little bit more of a chance. Granted, I'd love to see Rashee Rice out there, but the other part of it is he probably wasn't going to play much on Saturday anyway.
True.
Maybe 4 snaps.
Yeah, and that's fair. So again, that's why I'm a little concerned long term, but I'm not one of the folks, and there are plenty of them, that are absolutely freaking out right now, because an injury to this guy is a big deal were it serious. I will say this too. The fact that he didn't come off the field yesterday, it wasn't reported. It wasn't like, oh, there's something wrong. It probably developed, tightened up overnight. That's usually what happens. There's a possibility they could do the walkthrough tomorrow. I don't think that we're going to count on it, but that's how I think precarious it is. So that's probably a good sign in and of itself that as you said, maybe they were going to get 4 or 6 snaps as an offense. Maybe he might have gotten a little bit more knowing that he's preparing to miss some time in the regular season. But in the end, it wasn't going to be a hard day's work there for Rashee Rice in preseason game number 1.
He may not have even gotten a target. That's the reality of it. I mean, he could go out there and run a couple of routes and be completely done. So I don't like it. I don't like that he's injured, but at the same time, I'm sitting here going, this gives guys like Tyquan Thornton a chance to play with Patrick Mahomes. Now, whether or not he gets any time with Mahomes where he gets targeted is a whole nother issue as well. But you have all these wide receivers that have to prove their worth and what they need to be able to do to make this roster. And I know one of them that we are certain is probably not going to make this roster, and Sky Moore could be another one that steps in there and takes reps with the first string, even though we know he's going to be playing with the 2s after Mahomes comes out.
I tend to doubt it. I think this is going to be everything revolves around X as long as he's in there. Juju isn't going to play a ton because you want to save that man's wheels, right? So
specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tyquan's going to be out there. You're going to see more Jalen Royals. For those of you that were super pumped when we drafted Jalen Royals, you're going to get to see him now because they're out of bodies. The other guy that I think this helps this, and Matt's been kind of warning us for a while about the situation. If punt return duties do not fall with Nico Remillo, well, you're going to see him as a wide receiver tomorrow or Saturday. So he's going to have an opportunity. And so I do respect this about Nico. He does seem to understand where his deficiencies lie and where he needs to progress. So this is the ultimate chance for him to make a bigger statement. We've seen him make some plays in the preseasons before. It's not that there's a fear that he can't make plays. You got to see it more consistently. And when you get the opportunity, you got to be able to respond. If he does that, I think he keeps himself in that competition with Thornton.
Yeah, but he's also got to do it with a higher level competition. I think we've seen plays with the 3rd string. You can't do that and expect it to translate to even going up against normal NFL guys that are going to be out there every snap. So you have to figure that he's got to get in there. He's got to make some kind of play. He's got to do something with the 2nd string at the very least to prove that he has the ability to do something in the wide receiver position. The other guy that I think could benefit from Rashee Rice being out, and not necessarily because they're 1-for-1. They're obviously not 1-for-1 replacements, but Jason Brownlee has been taking a bunch of snaps with the 1s. He may not get snaps with the 1s because of this, but he's definitely going to move up the depth chart when it comes to getting snaps overall, and you're more likely to see him get more snaps because Rice will be out.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Nico Remillo or Jason Brownlee, like the dude that I'm taking to dinner tonight, like full steak on me, is Gardner Minshew. Like, come on, buddy. Like, I'm going to take care of you tonight. You take care of me on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, and if they do that, then maybe they are able to get a couple of passes their direction, and maybe it can make a statement for them and give them a better chance to make this roster. Brownlee, I think, is still on the outside looking in, and probably a little bit further on the outside than some of the other guys, even really to an extent almost Sky Moore-ish. Because when you look at how this is going to work out, well, I'm talking about when you look at how many they're going to keep, I can't see Brownlee making this roster any more than I can see Sky Moore making this roster as it sits right now.
Fair.
Is it possible if he shows up and just blows up in the preseason and then can come in week 2 and show something with the first unit? Maybe. But as of right now, I don't think he has much of a chance of being on the active roster.
I agree with you there. I think they're both destined for the practice squad is probably the way that it goes down. But one thing I know for certain is they're not any of them going to be playing with Travis Kelce because he's going to be out there for about a snap and a half, and that's it. But Travis is leaner and meaner, and it makes a difference next. This is easy. Summer sports, they're in full swing, and when you're ready to get under those baseball lights, golf on the green, or take on that high-stakes soccer action, is that a thing? FanDuel's the best way to do it, no matter what. Even if you are a the other football fan, it can make it that much more exciting. You're already in the flow of the action. Why not make it more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get into it right away. During it, while you're getting sunburned on the beach, you can be in the action. I've been using FanDuel forever to track my favorite matchups, keep it fresh with new daily promotions. They're fun ways to bet. There's fun ways to get into new sports, different sports, and things that you love already. Right now, if you're new to FanDuel, you're in the business because new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Open up the FanDuel app today and get over there at FanDuel.com to get started. There was a Travis Kelce sighting today in St. Joe, and that is a good thing. It's not earth-shattering because you're going to get a grizzled veteran that Travis Kelce is in 13 years in this league. You might get more information out of him if you're watching the Jason Sudeikis episode of the podcast than you are going to get out of him at a presser, right?
He knows how to answer these questions.
Yeah, been here, done that, right? It is not a question mark. So the fact that he was able to address it, and I thought there were a couple of good pieces written by some of the beat reporters today, just about how noticeably leaned out he is, and that it allows him to get, I think, making more of the targets that he's already getting that he was going to get anyway, but being able to do a little bit more of them with them early. I feel like Patrick Mahomes has more of an edge to him right now in this training camp than we've seen in years past. The two of them recognizing that Father Time is calling. It might not be on your doorstep yet, Trav, but he is calling. I think that makes for a more dangerous Kelce in small bursts overall. What did you take away from it today?
Well, I think it's interesting when you start talking about him being leaner and meaner. One of the things that when you watch the offseason, when you saw pictures of him, there were a lot of people thinking he gained a ton of weight. And it's kind of funny because now it looks like it's the complete opposite of that. And he does look like he's leaner. He looks like he's able to move a little bit better than he was last year. And the reality is, while Father Time isn't coming for Travis this year, and it's definitely not coming for Mahomes this year, both of them are dealing with the same type of thing. I mean, Mahomes, this is his 9th year. Think about that.
That's crazy.
We are going into our 9th year. We've been with the podcast for 9 years, and this is Mahomes' 9th year. So we've been covering it the entire time he's been in the NFL. And it's just crazy to think about the fact that he's been in the NFL that long. But you look at Travis Kelce and you look at what he's able to do. And if the big question when it comes to him is how much are they going to use him? And the big question when it comes to that is the preseason I'm not worried about. But it's the regular season. It's getting into the tight end depth. It's talking about, right now you have Noah Gray, you have Robert Tonyan is probably 2 and 3 because Jared Wiley doesn't look like he's back yet, and Brennan still can't practice. Trey Watson is an unknown. You're not going to put him out there. So right now you're looking at Travis being your main tight end, which you always were, but they need to be able to have somebody else. And one of the biggest things with him being leaner and meaner is maybe he can take a couple more snaps than you were thinking that he would originally. But the Chiefs have always struggled with keeping his snap count low.
Yeah.
They need to work on that, and that needs to be a focus this season. And right now, the depth at that position isn't looking like it's going to allow that unless the Chiefs go away from using, 1 or 2 tight ends on the field on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah, the physicality is still what you got to watch out for. That snap count still needs to be real, and they got to get more serious about it. I do feel like, in general, they are a little bit more serious about it than they have been in years past. I think
at least in camp,
yeah. I think panic ensued a little bit last year.
Just a little bit with all the wide receivers gone.
Right? I mean, you look around and it's like, oh, what else are we going to do? Oh, okay, so feed 8-7. All right, that works. I think I still feel like there's probably, and we'll probably get a much better read on this on Saturday, but I feel like there's still a possible acquisition out there for this position group, depending on what happens with Wiley and Brenningsville, to tell you the truth. But old 1 ton is not going to give it up. And that's what I'm calling Robert Tonyan, folks. One-handed catch Robert Tonyan is now 1 ton. That's the way we're going. So 3,500, you can call him what you want. It doesn't matter to me. I'm trying to get excited about this, but I'm just petrified that they could use him up. If Travis is going to play 4 snaps and there's nobody else available, he and Noah are going to be on the field for like 60 snaps on Saturday. And I don't think that's a good start.
No, you absolutely have to put Jared Wiley out there. You have to give him the snaps, regardless of whether or not he's able to be 100% of who he is. He needs to be taking some of those snaps because it will help him get back into the groove and get into shape. But you also have a really young guy in Trey Watson who maybe isn't going to give you the looks that you want at that position, but giving him all the snaps is exactly what you have to do in this game. You cannot trot Noah Gray and Robert Tonyan out there for a combined 60 snaps. You just can't do that. That is setting yourself up to be in a world of hurt in a week or two if either of them get injured.
Yeah, that could be devastating to not just this season, but the end of Travis's career. Which, back to Travis, he did not acknowledge in any way, shape, or form that
Nor
the end
will
is
he.
near. He said, ask me that question when I retire. Okay. So I think that the guys in the room have to be pretty prepared for that, and good for him. You got to fight it off. His brother fought it off for as long as he could. I think he'll do the same, maybe even to his detriment, but not to this team's detriment.
Yeah, and it'll be curious because I do believe that I saw somebody talk to him before training camp started, and he said something about, they'll take care of the contract next year because he's a free agent after this year. He's obviously not going to be playing anywhere other than Kansas City. He will, if he's playing in 2026, it will be for the Chiefs. Who knows how much they're going to end up paying him, but he will be playing in Kansas City if he's going to be playing anywhere in 2026. He's not going to go away from his best friend and Patrick Mahomes. He's definitely not going to go away from Big Red.
No. That would be fruitless. There's no reason to go anywhere else. It just would make no sense. So I think we're well prepared for that. And it would not be a surprise to see him do another year, another 2 years. We're going to have to see how this version of Travis Kelce right now performs this season, and that will determine it all.
Yeah. Do the Jason Kelce-esque contract year every year.
There are worse ways to hang on to your playing days. I will tell you that. And there are things that could be bigger surprises. One of them happened in camp today, and you need to hear about it. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy because it's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Chiefs, we're playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or veteran making your millionth league. I use them every year in my main league, the one that I've been running over 20 years, so I can do all the things that I like, cut out all the noise, and just attack my friends and have a good time playing fantasy football. You can celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness with Yahoo Fantasy right now. They're dropping 28 big new features over 28 days in August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues. It's a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated from the league each week until there's only one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get into league, get it together, give it a new try. Whether it's a new mode or a classic mode, you can still play head-to-head in private leagues or just join a public one if you want. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now over at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Now, it's always good to get a little bit of surprise. Someone's going to surprise us in this first preseason game. We're going to tell you all about it tomorrow as we give you our preview, so don't miss that and get ready for this first preseason game. One surprise already started, though, and while there's plenty to talk about, I did not expect to see one person in training camp today that really caught my eye, and I think there's an obvious thing here that you'll have to tell me whether it's crazy or not, but Antonio Pierce in red in St. Joe threw me for a loop today. He was actually participating, I assume, in the same program that Juan Castillo was, where you come through it, and it's not really an internship, but it's a coaching thing where they rotate, and you get exposed to the way other coaches do things. Antonio Pierce could probably use some of that, in my personal opinion, but did it floor you or what?
Yeah, it's surprising. So quick after him being the head coach of the Raiders. Obviously, he's not going to be coaching the NFL this year, more than likely. I can't imagine that he's going to get a job anywhere this season, but he's making money from the Raiders for quite a while, so I don't know what that really matters for him. But the reality is that you need coaches all the time. And Andy Reid, of all the people out there, his coaching tree, if you go look at Andy Reid's coaching tree, is phenomenal. The amount of coaches in the NFL that have gone through Andy Reid in some way, shape, or form is pretty impressive. And then you add into that Steve Spagnuolo, and it's even more impressive. I mean, Spagnuolo has had a ton of coaches go through him as well. So it's not shocking to me that you have Pierce in Kansas City doing this. It's kind of surprising this year. I wouldn't call it shocking.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you remember Antonio Pierce played for Steve Spagnuolo. Like, they know each other. There is a certain edge that you can attribute to Antonio that was formed and forged by Steve Spagnuolo. So conceptually, I think it does make a whole lot of sense. When you talk about Matt House, Daly being here, some guys that have been around, you guys know how we feel about Joe Cullen and what he does on the front. Having additional space here when we're talking about guys like Jack Cochran, like Jeff Bossa, Cam Jones missed practice today again, unfortunately. But when you're talking about trying to bring a little bit of edge to a position group, having Antonio Pierce talking to your linebackers is not a bad way to go.
No, and it goes beyond that for me. I mean, you can't have too many good coaches, period. If they're a good coach and they know what they're doing in the NFL, and regardless of whether or not he was a good head coach, doesn't change whether or not he played in the NFL, played for a very long time in the NFL and played at a high level, and has the ability to be a coach. There was a reason he was an NFL head coach, because he was a good enough coach to get to that right to be able to be a head or try to be a head coach. So to me, this looks like a situation where Pierce is going to get a little bit more time, working with Kansas City, and we'll see how long he's out there. Is he going to be back tomorrow? Is he going to be back for the next couple of weeks? Is this just something where he was out there and just kind of helping out today? I do think that this is really a smart move by Andy Reid and by Spagnuolo. There's nothing that you're going to lose from it. He's not, like I said, he's not going to be coaching anywhere this year. And it gives you another guy that's played the position that can talk to your players.
And I'm going to be watching linebackers pretty closely in this first preseason game. Another one that I'm going to watch is the DBs. If there's a surprise waiting to happen in the depth chart, a lot of change comes after this first preseason game. My bet is it's going to be in the DB group somewhere.
Yep, for sure. And that's the big question, is who is going to be the big surprise? Still haven't seen Christian Fulton. Don't know if we'll see him this preseason with the way it's going. And if that's the case, how are these going to work out in the preseason game? What are you going to see against the Cardinals when you have your starting CBs go out there? And who's going to be the starting CBs? We know Trent McDuffie is going to be one of them. Who's going to be the other one?
That's the question. We know one.
Well, right. And we don't know, who's going to be the nickel corner. What are they going to do there? How are they going to play those guys? How are they going to rotate them? There's so many questions when it comes to the DBs. You have a pretty good idea of who the 5 or 6 guys are going to be on the roster at the corner position. There's maybe some questions as to whether or not one guy or another is going to make the roster, and I get that. But you have a pretty good feel for where they're going to be. You just don't know what the order they're going to be in is, and they don't have anybody really pushing them from behind to get them in a position where they could be falling off for the most part for a lot of those guys in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting run to see who swaps out for who. Who do we see multiple times on the wide receiver group? Given that it's this thin, Delano, I think, is another guy that you need to watch for. But it's about how many reps, because we talked about maybe the 4 guys that we're going to see the most. But Jimmy Holiday caught a touchdown pass today. I really want to see Elijah Badger. I'm not sure the team wants to show Elijah Badger, but that's another team or position that we might see surprises on who actually gets time and targets on Saturday.
Well, and how much does Jalen Royals play? Like, we talked about him in the first segment, he could get more snaps because of Rashee Rice being out and Hollywood Brown being out, and I agree with that. But he could still be playing late into the game because he's going to be a rookie, and they need him to get snaps, and they need him to get comfortable in the offense. So I'm not going to expect him playing in the third quarter, but it's not going to shock me if he's out there late.
I'm going to say buku snaps. I expect him to play into the third quarter at this point, to tell you the truth. Well, it's a golden opportunity, I think, but we'll see what happens.
It really depends on how they break things down, and we still haven't got that information from the coaches, how they're planning on breaking it down. We figure that we usually get that the day before, so I guess we'll probably get it on Thursday. How are they figuring it's going to break down? And then, generally speaking, with the ones, you can say, okay, it's probably going to be half that for the offense, because that's generally how it ends up working. Reed sees Mahomes out there for a series and is like, yep, I'm done. He can sit on the bench the rest of the game, and so be it. Yeah. You talk about the wide receivers. I think that's going to be intriguing. But the one that intrigues me the most is going to be the offensive line, because we have talked about so many of the players on the offensive line. We figure we've talked with Matt, and we talked, you and I have talked. There's probably 8 that are probably figured out right now, and I'd say probably 100% to make the team, or at 99%, those top 8 are probably going to make the team. But where do you go from there? Are you going to have 9? Are you going to have 10? Who's going to be your 9th and 10th? So, or if you get to 10, and how do all those snaps come about? Where do all these players show up and try to play? Because we know that Moore is going to get time probably at tackle and probably at guard. Does Driscoll get any time anywhere other than tackle? I can't imagine he does, but does he? Because you need to know what these players can do. Where's Wande Morris line up? Is it just left tackle? Does he move around? All of it's going to be a big question. This offensive line is something that they got to get figured out as to where they're going to have the guys at the lower end. But the other thing that you have to watch for is, can the offensive line with the second unit get push, and can they be effective? Because that's somewhere that they have struggled the past couple of years, and it makes it the job of QB2 and Gardner Minshew very hard.
It does. I have 3 players that I am going to tell you need to be watching, because I will definitely be watching them. One of them is on the offensive line. We're going to tell you about them all tomorrow, so don't miss it. Our Friday show to end the week drops on Thursday night. We try to give it to you a little bit early for those of you that commute or work nights. So make sure that you're prepared for that, especially on a week where team is playing on Saturday. So please like, sub, do the things. Get with the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for being with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Don't miss our preview tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then.